My name is Leon. For 25 years, my world revolved around a single, precious axis. My daughter, Lily. After her father, my gentle-hearted Michael, passed from an aggressive cancer when she was 10, it was just us, against the world. I sold our cozy family home and poured every ounce of profit and every shred of my energy into Leon's Comforts, a bespoke catering and event planning business. It wasn't just a job, it was a lifeline. Every late night, every aching back, every negotiated contract was for her. I wanted her to soar without the weight of debt, to have the security I never did. I paid for her degree in art history from a prestigious university. We were more than mother and daughter. We were co-conspirators, best friends, a fortress of two. Then she met Julian Sterling. Julian wasn't just wealthy. His family's wealth was a silent, looming presence, like an ancient, immovable mountain. The Sterlings were legacy. Their money was old, quiet, and carried the faint scent of disapproval for anyone who had to work for a living. The first time I met his mother, Eleanor, at a painfully restrained lunch, she surveyed my carefully chosen outfit, a smart, off-the-rack dress, and said, "How practical." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "And this little catering venture of yours must keep you so occupied." I could handle Eleanor's glacial condescension. I'd dealt with her type before. What I couldn't stomach was the slow, insidious transformation of my daughter. The girl who once danced with me in the kitchen to old soul records now winced if I hummed a tune. The young woman who cherished my homemade lasagna began suggesting more refined caterers for her dinners with Julian. Our 5 daily calls dwindled to terse, rushed texts. She started mirroring Eleanor's phrases, her posture, even her cool, assessing gaze. I saw myself being reframed in her eyes. From the resilient mother who built an empire from a casserole dish to a well-meaning but slightly gauche woman who didn't understand how things are done. The engagement was announced not with a squealing phone call, but a social media post, a stunning, professionally shot photo of her hand adorned with a diamond the size of a glacier, with the caption, "Forever starts now." My congratulations felt like an afterthought. The wedding planning was a masterclass in my new role. I was the bank of mom, not the mother of the bride. Eleanor had suggestions: a cathedral, a specific 5-star hotel ballroom, a florist who only worked with imported orchids. Julian smiled blandly and said, "Whatever makes Lily happy." Lily's happiness, it seemed, was directly tied to Eleanor's approval. The pivotal moment came with the venue. Eleanor casually mentioned the Vandermeer estate, a historic Gilded Age mansion. "It's the only place anyone who's anyone gets married these days," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "Of course, the deposit is quite substantial." Lily's eyes lit up with a desperate, hungry hope. She wanted this key to the Sterling kingdom. And I, wanting to see that light stay in her eyes, wanting to give her this piece of a fairy tale, I agreed. I would cover the Vandermeer and the catering, my gift. I signed the contract. The initial holding fee was a significant sum. The final, non-refundable deposit of $85,000 was due in 6 weeks. A week later, I was scrolling through my phone with a cup of tea when a photo stopped my heart. It was posted by Julian's sister, Cassandra.
a lavish engagement party at the Sterling's Country Club. There was Lily, glowing in an ivory gown I'd never seen, her arm linked through Julian's, surrounded by a sea of elegant strangers. A champagne fountain glittered in the background. The caption read, "Welcome to the family, Lily, an intimate gathering for our nearest and dearest." I wasn't there. The pain was a physical blow, a cold fist clenching around my lungs. I waited a full 24 hours, letting the raw wound harden into something I could speak through. When I called, my voice was deceptively calm. "Lily, sweetheart, I saw the pictures from the party. It looked beautiful." A long, guilty pause. "Oh, yeah, Cassie posts everything. It was lovely." "Lily," I said, the name feeling fragile on my tongue. "Why wasn't I there?" Another pause, then a sigh, the sound of someone annoyed by a minor inconvenience. And then she said it, the 7 words that shattered 25 years of history into irreparable fragments. "It was just for Julian's family, Mom," she murmured, her voice soft, but carrying the weight of a final verdict. "You wouldn't really fit in." The line went quiet, not just on the phone, but inside me. A profound, echoing silence descended. The warmth that had always flowed toward her iced over instantly, replaced by a clarity so sharp it was painful. "I see," I said, my voice now as cool and smooth as marble. "Thank you for clarifying." I hung up. I didn't cry. I walked to my home office, to the beautiful leather-bound wedding planner I'd bought her. Inside, tucked in the venue section, was the cashier's check I'd obtained 3 days prior. $85,000 made out to the Vandermeer estate. It was sitting on my desk, waiting to be mailed. I picked it up. This piece of paper was more than money. It was the purchase price for my daughter's acceptance into a world that saw me as a blemish. It was the fee for my own erasure. With a steady hand, I placed it back in the drawer. But I didn't close the planner. I opened it to a fresh page. At the top, I wrote a new heading. Leanne, Chapter 2. The silent countdown. In the days that followed, Lily's behavior was a study in oblivious entitlement. She texted me fabric swatches and cake designs as if the "you wouldn't fit in" conversation had never happened. My replies were polite, distant emojis, or one-word affirmations. Lovely. Nice. I imagined she thought I was pouting, that I'd get over my little hurt feelings once the reality of the wedding crunch set in. She had never known a version of me whose support wasn't unconditional. But a fundamental rewiring had occurred. I was no longer her mother, emotionally bound to fix her problems. I was a businesswoman who had just been presented with a terrible ROI on a major investment. The product, a relationship with my daughter, was faulty. The warranty, mutual love and respect, had been voided. I began my own parallel planning. The $85,000 was no longer a wedding deposit. It was my liberation fund. For years, Michael and I had dreamed of a little villa in Tuscany, a place of sun-drenched stone and rolling hills. After he died, the dream felt like a betrayal to pursue alone. Now it felt like a promise to myself. I contacted a European realtor. I had Zoom calls at dawn, looking at properties with terracotta roofs and views of olive groves. I found it, a small, restored stone farmhouse outside a quiet village near Siena. It needed love, but its bones were strong. It was real. It was honest. It was the antithesis of the Vandermeer's cold, gilded halls. I made an offer. It was accepted. The $85,000 became the decisive down payment. The closing was set for a Tuesday. The Friday before that Tuesday was the deadline for the Vandermeer estate deposit.
The irony was not lost on me. As I was preparing to sign from my new life, Lily's meticulously constructed fantasy was scheduled to implode. I didn't block her number. I didn't change mine. I simply waited. I knew the estate's event coordinator, a formidable woman named Mrs. Delacroix, ran her business with military precision. She would not be late in calling. On the Friday morning of the deadline, I was at the bank finalizing the international wire transfer for my villa. My phone, silenced, buzzed persistently in my purse. Afterward, I drove to the Botanical Gardens, a place Michael and I had loved. I sat on our favorite bench, surrounded by the vibrant, indifferent beauty of nature, and only then did I turn my phone on. 17 missed calls, 4 from a number I recognized as the Vandermeer estate, 13 from Lily. The phone rang again in my hand. Her name flashed on the screen, a pulsating beacon of panic. I took a deep breath of fragrant floral air and answered. The price of admission. Mom, oh my God, where have you been? Lily's voice was a hair's breadth from hysteria, shrill and cracking. Mrs. Delacroix has called me 5 times. The deposit is overdue. They're going to give our date to the Beaumonts. She needs a wire transfer now. Did you forget? Did the check get lost? This isn't funny. I let her panic hang in the air for a moment, a tangible thing. I could hear the chaotic background noise of what sounded like a shop, the murmur of other voices, the clink of hangers. She was probably with Eleanor dress shopping. No, Lily, I said, my voice a calm pool in the midst of her storm. I didn't forget, and the check isn't lost. Then what is going on? You have to fix this. Everything is booked. The invitations are at the printer. My dress is being altered. You promised. I did promise. I agreed, my tone even. I promised my daughter, the one who was my best friend, that I would help make her wedding day magical. I promised the girl who used to think I hung the moon. What are you talking about? Mom, just send the money. But you made a promise too, Lily, I continued as if she hadn't spoken. You promised me, through your actions and your words, that I am not family, not the kind that celebrates together. You were very clear. The engagement party was just for Julian's family. I wouldn't fit in. You can't issue an invitation to my heart and then send an invoice to my bank account. The math doesn't work that way. The silence on her end was stunned, broken only by a sharp, muffled intake of breath that wasn't hers. Eleanor was listening. You're doing this to punish me? Lily's voice trembled now with a mix of fury and disbelief. You're going to ruin the most important day of my life because your feelings got hurt? That's monstrous. No, darling, I said, and for the first time, a sliver of my own pain edged into my words. I'm not punishing you. I'm respecting your decision. You chose a family. I am merely accepting that I am not part of it. And since I am not family, I have no familial obligations, including financial ones. I'm sure the Sterlings, with all their resources and their perfect fit, will be more than happy to secure the venue that means so much to their family. You know they can't just access funds like that on a Friday. Mom, please. The plea was desperate, but it was still a demand. It was not an apology. It was not, I'm so sorry, I was cruel and wrong. Then I suggest you and Julian get creative, I said, the steel returning. A personal loan, perhaps. Or maybe the Beaumonts will be gracious. As for my money, I've made another investment. Another investment? What could possibly be more important than this? A home, I said simply. In Italy. I close on it on Tuesday. The deposit was perfect for the down payment. The gasp on the other end was pure, unadulterated shock. I had shattered the ultimate assumption that my life, my dreams, my resources were merely an extension of hers, on hold until she no longer needed them. You bought a house with my wedding money? she shrieked, the veneer of Sterling-inspired poise utterly gone. "How could you be so selfish?" The hypocrisy was so vast, it was almost impressive. "Goodbye, Lily," I said, my finality absolute. "I truly hope your wedding is everything you've ever wanted." I ended the call. I blocked her number and Julian's, and, after a moment's thought, Eleanor's. I then sent a brief formal email to Mrs. Delacroix, copying the legal email I had for the Sterling family office, stating that I, Leanne Evans, was no longer financially involved in the Sterling Evans wedding, and all future inquiries should be directed to the couple or the Sterling family. I attached a scanned copy of the original contract, highlighting my signature as the initial guarantor and noting my formal withdrawal. Then I turned my phone off. The silence was no longer empty. It was full of possibility. Sunset and a different sky. The fallout reached me in fragments, like news from a distant war. My sister, caught in the middle, relayed the chaos with a mix of horror and grim satisfaction. The Sterlings, outraged and humiliated, had scrambled. They couldn't or wouldn't muster the full deposit in time. The Vandermeer estate, unsentimental about legacy without cash, gave the date to the Beaumonts. Lily's wedding was relocated in a panic to the only available venue, the dated convention hall of a mid-tier city hotel. The five-star caterer dropped out. They served rubbery chicken and steamed vegetables from the hotel's kitchen. The lavish floral arrangements were replaced with sad bunches of carnations and baby's breath. Half the A-list guests, hearing the venue had changed, sent last-minute regrets. Cassandra Sterling's social media was conspicuously silent on the day. The photos my sister eventually saw showed a beautiful but hollow-eyed Lily, her smile strained, standing in a bleak ballroom under fluorescent-lit ceiling tiles. Eleanor Sterling's face was a mask of frosty, furious humiliation. It was, by all accounts, a spectacular social disaster, the very thing they had sought to avoid by excluding me. A month after the wedding, a letter arrived on heavy, expensive stationery. It was from Lily. No Mom, just Leanne. It was pages long, a torrent of blame, accusations of betrayal, and detailed descriptions of how I had embarrassed her in front of her new family. Buried on the last page was one single grudging line. I suppose I could have been more considerate about the party. It wasn't an apology. It was an invoice for sympathy, with the price still set at $85,000 and my total surrender. I didn't write back. Instead, I packed my life into a dozen boxes, sold my business to my thrilled and capable second-in-command, and booked a one-way ticket to Florence. Now I am sitting on the terracotta terrace of my villa, Il Sogno di Liane, Leanne's dream. The evening sun warms the ancient stones, and the air smells of rosemary, sun-baked earth, and freedom. A local farmer delivers fresh eggs and olives. I'm learning Italian, badly but enthusiastically. I've even started painting again, something I hadn't done since Michael died. The hurt is still there, a quiet, familiar ache like an old fracture when the weather changes. I miss the ghost of my daughter, the child she was, but I do not miss the stranger she chose to become. She got her wedding free of the mother who didn't fit in, and in doing so, she freed the mother to finally find where she does. I lift my glass of local Chianti to the breathtaking Tuscan sunset, a panorama of fiery gold and deepening violet. Somewhere across the ocean, she lives in the world she chose. And here, amidst the cicadas and the rustling olive trees, I finally live in mine. The deposit was never about a venue. It was the down payment on a boundary, and it was worth every single penny.